Welcome, I'm Jeremy, and today I'm going to share 5 steps I used to learn Rust, including 3 I'm still using today. So the first one here is the Rust book, the official Rust book, still best in class. And so what I did is I read from chapter 1 up to chapter 6. I didn't go further. I will explain later. But then also I read the Rust by example, and there's this web page, this GitHub page on Learn Rust, which is very well done. And you can find a list of learning resources by level. And that is very nice. So we have our Rust book, and then you have the Rust by example. And then you have a lot of good resources down there. So why did I go up to chapter 6? And the reason why is because Rust can be very overwhelming at first. And so when I didn't understand things, I skipped them without shame. Because my goal was to go to step number 2 as fast as possible. And step number 2 is about building a small and useful thing for ourselves. And the reason why is because we want something we're going to come back to add features, to fix bugs, to redesign the code, to do code clean, and so on. So it's great to have disposable codes and transient code when you learn. Yes, the Rust by example, we don't need to keep them. But it's nice to find something that will be useful to us that we can come back over the months. And sometimes I do something, it's useful to me, I use it, and then 6 months later I come back. And that has a tremendous value on the learning. And also because it's not production code, we don't have to worry about all the unit testing and things. We can be like very pragmatic and everything is open bar. As long as you get the job done, it's good. Now, the cool thing about Rust is that it's one of the best tools to build command lines. And the best things about command lines is the best way to create something very simple and useful because it has a low complexity with immediate value. So for example, we don't need to worry about multi-threaded and all these kind of things. We can go a very long way with single thread, one input, one output per execution. And that solves a lot of things here. So we can make, again, something very useful that we'll come back to with very low complexity. And then the best of all is that cargo install makes it a breeze because it compares it and it installs it for us and then we can use anywhere. So let me give you an example of what I did as my first useful command line that I still use today, 3 years, 2 years and a half later. So it was a command line which I called dinf, D-I-N-F, for directory information. And it was silly, it's already done. And it doesn't matter. It's not about not reinventing the wheel business. It's about, again, doing something useful for us to come back to. So the goal here was to get the information of a folder the way that I wanted it, such as I didn't have to learn some complex command line and just give what I cared about. So the first one was just about getting the summary. So that is what it was giving me at the beginning. And just by the number of files and the total files. So that was just a very simple command line just to show me that my directory wasn't going haywire. So for example, I was using it on my dev channel where I put all the videos. And then quickly after, I wanted to add the top 5 biggest files. Because only that tells me if I haven't removed some big pre-render or whatever files that, again, makes the things go haywire. So that was already very useful for me. And then after, I added the top 5 biggest files by extension. And that was also awesome because now I didn't have to worry about, all this command line and learning about these kind of things. It was just something for me. And that has a tremendous value for me. So for example, just that. For example, here I can see that I have 70 gig of WAV file. And that was before I moved to my FLAC workflow, which I started and I only have 7. So I know now that I need to write a script here to take all these guys and make them FLAC. So that is very nice. And then after I say, well, if I want more than 10, I do a -n, 10. Boom. And then if I want to have some globe and I just want to care about the MP4 and MOV, then I do that. And then I have that. So very simple, doesn't matter if it already exists. The goal is it's my code and I learn it and I grow it the way I want it. And I'm going to keep it for a very long time. And then once you do that, this one is just a silly one, cute one. But once you do that, you are going to start doing other command line that are going to add more value to your workflow. And that is what I did with my, for my editing and stuff. I slice the videos by time, by silence, and all these kind of things. And it's pretty neat. So now let's look at the code to see how the things look like. Okay, so that is the code. Let me make myself a little bit smaller. Okay, so this one is good. So now let's go and look at the code. It's again super simple. So for example, if we look at the number of lines of code, it's dead simple. Okay, it's only 190 lines of code. So it's very small. And the way I like to do it, I have my Rust and diff here, and prefix the things, it's faster to look. I will show you why later. And then obviously on my cargo here, I don't repeat the diff, I keep it clean. And then I have my clap here. So usually what I did is I started without it, very short, and then I added clap, because clap makes everything much nicer to build a command line, and is actually also implement the best practices. So suddenly you have help and all these kind of things almost for free. So it's pretty cool. And then once you start learning things, you say, okay, I need to have walkdir and file size and glob set and so on. So that's very nice. Now, the way we install that with Rust, and that is where Rust gets magical, is that you just do a cargo install --path dot. And then that's it. That will install the thing into your directory. So that is very nice. Now, what things that we can do, for example, is we can go to the main. I'm going to close this one. Actually, we are going to fold everything. And then I go to the exec, which is where things happen. And we are going to show how I can change that. Press save. Then I just do my cargo install. And then I go back to my code over there and I do a diff. And then voila, it gets it over there. So that is very cool, yeah, because now we can do the things very fast like that. And cargo install takes care of everything, put it at the right place. And because we already have installed cargo and everything is already in the path and everything. And that is a breeze. And you just install it for yourself, yeah. So this one, the diff, I push it to crates.io because I was part of one of my videos to teach about how to deploy things. But then actually, usually I have a lot of these kind of command lines that I don't push anywhere. And sometimes I don't even put it on GitHub. It's just on Git because I like to have the history, but it's not even on GitHub and everything. So you can build a lot of utilities like that. Now, the cool thing about the cargo install, and that goes to step number 3, is that you can combine it with cargo watch. And that is a magical step. The one that I use all the time, every coding day, every coding hours, actually. And I'm going to explain why. So the way it works is you go there, and now we're going to do a cargo watch -Q for quiet, -C for clear, -X to execute. And now we put whatever we will have put on cargo. So we're going to do an install --path dot. Then that's it. Okay, so now it does the thing. So now the cool thing about this is you go back there and we're going to change it like that. Press save. We go back to our terminal, diff, and then boom, we have it. So obviously that is a silly example, yeah, because you wouldn't do that. But it makes developing this command line for yourself super fast. It's like Python. Okay? You just press, you have sometimes I have the code running somewhere in a window, and then I update it and I use it and everything. And then if it doesn't, I change it and everything. No unit test, no production coding, open bar. The only thing I've forbidden myself to on all these scripts is to delete stuff. I don't delete. I'm paranoid. Some people don't like shut down buttons. I don't like delete buttons. So the point is, if you follow this principle, with this code here, utilities, you do not have to worry about all the kind of production things. You just learn about doing something useful, and you can just be pragmatic first. And it's open bar, as long as you don't delete. So that is super cool. And the reason why that is super cool is because now we are in a very highly iterative mode. And in fact, what I have is a set of aliases because I'm using cargo watch for everything, for install, for run, and for test, and even for examples. We're going to see that in step 4. So what I have is a set of aliases in the shell, such as I can use it with a very minimum friction without typing this long command, obviously. So that is what I have. So those are some of the shell function. I put them in function. The first one could be an alias, but it doesn't matter. And that allows me to be super fast and use them with everything I do. So for example, here we have the cargo watch install. So CWI, that will do a cargo watch install, just like this. And in this case, I don't do the quiet because I'm okay to have some noise over there. It's fine because it's very short and I don't read print usually on these kind of guys. Then after I have the one for the examples, and that we're going to see that in step 4 is also very critical. So this one, I do a cargo, watch, quiet, clear, exec, and run quiet and the example as an argument. And so that again goes super fast because you do your example and you can run it, change it, print it, and then just go like that. And then I even have one, which I'm still evolving all the time, but it's cargo watch test. And then this one, I make it a little bit more advanced where if I give only one argument, it's going to be the full name or the partial name of the function. That is the way cargo test does its stuff. And if I give 2 arguments, the first one will be assumed to be the test files, the integration test file, full name. So that is the way cargo test works. And then the full or the partial name of the test function. And with just that, it kind of speed up so much the development. Now, there's stuff here that I should be fine-tuning sometime, to make sure that you don't run other tests when you do some things. But already those kind of things really makes the development super fast. And all of that is super important because for high velocity coding, iteration is king. So the faster we can iterate, meaning that we take little process that will take minutes, make them seconds, and then we take them seconds and we make them milliseconds. So this is what we do here. Yeah, we take something with cargo install and everything, cargo watch and things that will take, I don't know, a second, couple of seconds. CWI, it's sub-second mostly. And then the whole cargo watch, the fact that it reinstall, we take things that will always take like few seconds or whatever, and we make them into a sub-second things. And then once we do that, the whole development process kind of change. In fact, I put that very far, even when I do multi-service cloud application with Kubernetes and stuff, I go to a lot of work to make sure that this process, so it's not only cargo watch, there's other stuff here with Docker and Kubernetes and so on, but that we have the same process. And then once we have that, the development speed kind of skyrocket. And now we are ready for step number 4, which again, I still use today. So this one, we're going to go back over there. And those are what I call the XP. And so XP for me is like experiment, exploration, or examples, or whatever you want. But it's not disposable code. It's not something useful, but it's something which is long-lasting, but it's to learn. And I put them by topics. Yeah, so for example, here I wanted to learn AI functions. I put one there. Often I do ones to learn libraries. So I wanted to learn Flume. I did that. The GenAI here, which is my library, but I did that because I made the video. So now when I do videos about things, and we're going to see here the one with SQLite, which will be a future video that I will do, I use this pattern because it's so fast as well. And then that is a querying here and so on. So all of those here are the ones that I've been opening relatively recently, but I have many more. We're going to see them later. But one cool one is a SQLite. And we'll do a video here, but this is a good example of what an XP is like for me. And this has this format. So what I have is I organize my learning in a way on a given topic by examples. So I'm using the cargo example as a framework to do the branching. So rather to have a main, and then in the main having sub-functions, and then I have to put them in other files or whatever to do the branching, because when you want to learn one feature at a time in a way. And the goal again is not to have disposable code, is to have something that you can come back to and add another file or fine-tune a file to understand how things work. So the examples is perfect for that. In this case, and in some cases, I number them. But that is very optional, and it's kind of my style, because when I do the videos, I like to have chapters. And even for me, sometimes I like to have a little story. Yeah? So from simple to complex. And obviously, that is to order them in alphabetical order. And then sometime in this case, I even did a sum number here, -1 and -2. That is because I wanted to have this kind of 2 level down. But usually I go relatively flat, and sometimes I don't even have the number. But the point is to be able to run those very quickly. So for example, here, if we click on simple, this is very simple. It's just about opening a connection. Then I give my information if I want to open a file path. And then I do my for loop to insert many things. I do another insert here. And here I wanted to learn what was the difference between SQLite strict and SQLite not strict. And so by just doing that, I just validated by when we say strict, we can actually put number in a string column, which will become a string, but we cannot put a string within a number column. So that is actually pretty nice. And then after we have these things where I do the query and I do the print and so on. And so the way that we run that, you guessed it, CWE C01-1-simple. And then that's it. And then it runs my things here with the print and so on, because I wanted to print stuff. And then if I say, oh, okay, I want to create more things. For example, let's say we want to create 8. We press save, and then boom, we have the thing saved. So that is very nice, yeah, because now we can learn very well the APIs, we can change things and so on. Here we have 9 because we have this insert over there, so everything works fine. And in this case, learning JSON and also JSON-B. Yeah, there's a little kind of things. And so this strategy here allows me to learn crates or techniques and keep this code in the long term. Now, those XP repos are good for like bigger crates or bigger concepts, but also I have a special XP, which is this one, the XP00 basics. And that is where I put all of the smaller things. Same principle, but small things go there for the language and for smaller crates. So if we go there, we're going to see that in the examples here, I have a lot of things. Things that are more kind of language, things that are smaller crate like base64, Blake, casting, I wanted to understand, all these kind of things. And so by doing these kind of things, it allows me to, again, come back and learn or improve or validate my learning about a specific subject. So for example, we can look at the iter one, very simple one. At some point, I don't really use those often, the reduce and the fold, and I just wanted to play with it. So rather to play with it in a disposable code, which that would be completely fine. Since I have this XP basics, I go there, I do a iter.rs, and that is just my iter step there. And I don't overthink it. I just print whatever I want to print and then do my little logic. So the way that we will run that will be, you guessed it, with CWE iter. That's it. And then that will run our things. Now, the cool things about this is if I want to validate my understanding or to test my understanding, I will say, well, okay, what is the type? Option 32, that makes sense. And then I will say, well, what about if I were going to do just an iter? Can I do a reduce just with an iter? Well, he complained because this one is not a reference, and what he wants is an option of a reference of 32. Makes sense? I put the reference, and then it works. Well, then when I will say it to say, well, that is weird because I shouldn't be able to return a reference of something I created within the closure. Now, perhaps here is because that is a literal, and so the compiler assumes, rightfully, that that is going to be static. So it coalesces to a static reference. So now if I want to test this understanding, I will do a lest x equal 99, and then I will do x like that. Press save, kaboom, makes sense. I cannot return it because the x will be dropped. So now I kind of validate that. I say, okay, I get it. And now I can either keep this code or revert to old one. So these kind of things really, it's boosting my productivity a lot. Even today, I always come back there. Sometimes something silly, but I just want to make sure I understand. And I use GPTs and LLM a lot as well. But that combined with this, it's awesome because then you can validate the thing. Sometimes GPT gets stuff wrong, and then you validate them there, and then everything is fine. Okay, so that will conclude our step 4, which is an awesome step, and I'm still using it daily or at least weekly in my coding journey. So now we're going to go to step number 5, which is more kind of the way that I organize this type of code. And so the way that I organize it is like this. I put everything under underscore Rust. And so obviously this is very personal. I'm just sharing it, such as you can cherry pick whatever you want. And then I have a folder here, which is the AA, which is the awesome app. And that is going to be the awesome app.dev reboot that I'm going to push by the end of August, hopefully. And that will be a multi-AI provider chat desktop client. So that will be probably pretty cool, and it will be built with Story 2, so it's going to be awesome. The fun part here was just my Rust invaders. I'm not a game developer. I was just learning the language as well as the Bevy, which has a very interesting way of doing this kind of thing. So it's a very cool framework. And so I enjoyed that, and so I just put it over there, fun. In fact, honestly, the fun here, I'm not in a fun period right now, so I can put it into the old. But then after I have the utils, and that is a big one where I put all of the command line and the libraries that I own. And so here we have the GenAI, which is a big one that I'm working a lot right now on. And then we have our diff over there. And then we have all of the utils over there. Those are like kind of mine that I use on the side. So this one is actually a public one. It's Kubernetes-driven development. And I'm going to update it to support Rust. And then this one is an internal one that allows me to slice my videos into a small chunk and remove the silence, and such as I can slice it in DaVinci Resolve. So there's quite a bit of things that are either kind of public and that are pushed, or things that are mine, libraries, or CLIs. Now, there would be an argument of having different top folders for those categories. Right now, I put them all in one. Doesn't really matter. Organize them the way you want, but this kind of organization kind of makes sense, to me at least. And then the next one is my vids, which doesn't really matter. And then I have the XP, and that is where I put all of the XPs. So we have the XP00 basics on top, and then we have all of the other ones. So the Actix, Axum, AI functions, and all of these kind of things. So that is really where I put everything, and there's quite a bit, as you can see. And sometimes there are alias to my vids, because when I do a vids, I like to have everything there to know what I've been publishing on my Jeremy Chone channel, GitHub organization. And then I have my XTs. So the XTs is repos that doesn't belong to me, is XT like external. And then I pull them out either because I would like to contribute a pull request, or I want to run their examples in their context, such as I can do like the command click and the code navigation. And that is super awesome when you go and I found that Rust has the best code navigation of all languages. You go to the source, and because everything is open source and so on, is so seamless, and you learn so much. So it's very good. The only trick is when you have macros, that is hard to kind of know what the real code looks like. But other than that, it's kind of a breeze. And that's it. That will conclude this video. I hope it is useful to some. It's just sharing just my best practices of how I develop and I build my code. Feel free to add a like a subscribe, and a comment. This helps a lot, the algorithm, as well as my motivation. Until next one, happy coding.